This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A simple 1990 Lincoln penny, no mint mark. Ordinary, common, forgettable. Yet one of these tiny copper-plated discs stunned collectors when it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a single penny, worth up to $1.2 million, was once sitting quietly in someone's pocket change. Imagine that. You hand a cashier a penny without even looking at it, only to discover later that you could have just given away your shot at fortune. That's how dangerous ignorance can be when it comes to coins like this. The year was 1990. America was changing. The Cold War was ending. Technology was racing ahead. But in the U.S. Mint, tucked away in Philadelphia, something unexpected happened. A tiny oversight, a missing detail, a mistake so small most people never noticed, and that mistake created a coin so rare, it's now a legend. The 1990 Lincoln penny should have had a tiny P mint mark beneath the date if it came from Philadelphia. But for a short time, the mint accidentally released pennies without that P. And those no mint mark coins are now treasures. But here's where the story gets stranger. Not every missing mint mark matters. But in 1990, it did. Collectors began whispering about a coin that didn't look quite right. They compared pennies, squinting under magnifiers, searching for that missing letter. Dealers didn't believe it at first. It's just a mistake, some said. It can't be worth much. But then, an auction proved them all wrong. 1990 no mint mark Lincoln penny, in pristine condition, crossed the block. The bidding started low. But within minutes, the room buzzed with energy. Collectors raised their paddles. Dealers made frantic calls. The numbers climbed higher, higher, until the gavel fell at a price no one believed possible. Over $1 million, for one penny. And here's the truth that keeps collectors awake at night: dozens more of these no mint mark pennies could still be out there. Lurking in jars, in wallets, in the change rattling around your car. Forgotten. Ignored. Waiting to be discovered. Why would anyone pay such a fortune for what looks like a simple coin? The answer lies in a mix of rarity, condition, and timing. The missing mint mark was a shocking error for 1990. And the few coins that survived untouched, uncirculated, with crisp detail, became holy grails. Imagine holding one of these in your hand. At first, you'd see just another penny, Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial building on the back. Nothing unusual. But look closer, and the secret reveals itself. The date reads 1990. And just below, where a tiny P mint mark should sit, there is nothing. Just a blank space. A silent mistake worth millions. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, every 1990 penny was being examined under bright lights and magnifying glasses. People dug through drawers, jars, old piggy banks. And the frenzy hasn't stopped. Even today, 35 years later, people are still finding rare pennies in the most unlikely places. But here's the twist that shocks even seasoned collectors: not every no mint mark 1990 penny is worth a fortune. Condition is everything. The coin that broke headlines wasn't worn down or scratched. It was brilliant, untouched, a survivor of time. That's what drove its value sky high. What if the coin you're about to spend at the gas station could change your life? It's happened before. One man's spare change became a miracle when he spotted the missing mint mark. He held it, studied it, and realized he was looking at $1 million treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. The news wasn't just about the value. It was about the discovery, proof that miracles can hide in plain sight. Proof that the ordinary can transform into the extraordinary with nothing more than a missing letter. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these coins. Collectors competed fiercely, pushing prices higher and higher. And the legend of the 1990 no mint mark penny grew. Now, let's reset for a moment. Think about how many pennies you've handled in your life. Hundreds of thousands. Maybe millions. How many of them did you look at closely? How many did you toss aside, assuming they were worthless? That's the haunting thought for every collector, because the 1990 no-mint mark penny teaches us a powerful lesson. Life-changing fortune can hide in the smallest details, but here's where the story takes its most dramatic turn. The US Mint quickly realized the error and corrected it. That means only a limited number of these coins escaped into circulation. The supply is vanishingly small. And scarcity is the heartbeat of value. One collector once said, holding this penny feels like holding lightning in a bottle. Because it's not just a coin. It's a mistake that became a miracle. A slip of history that turned copper into gold, figuratively and financially. The steps are simple, but the stakes couldn't be higher. First, grab a magnifier. Look at the date, 1990. Then, drop your eyes just below the numbers. Do you see a tiny letter? If you see a P mint mark, it's ordinary. But if there's nothing there, no letter at all, you could be staring at $1 million coin, but be careful. Many people mistake worn-down pennies for missing mint marks. Dirt, scratches, or fading can fool the eye. That's why condition matters so much. A true 1990 no-mint mark penny will show no trace of a mint letter, not even a ghost outline. Just clean, blank space, and here's the final twist. Even if you find one, its value depends on preservation. Keep it safe. Don't clean it, don't scratch it, don't toss it into a bag with other coins. Because the difference between a penny worth a few $100s, and one worth over $1 million, comes down to condition. Have you looked closely at the pennies in your house? Because one tiny oversight could mean missing out on the chance of a lifetime. Think about it. Somewhere out there, sitting unnoticed in a jar, or resting in the palm of your hand, could be the very coin that collectors are willing to pay $1 million to own. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a single penny, something most people overlook, leave on the ground, or toss in a jar, but this one, minted in 1977, with a tiny D mark, has shaken the world of coin collectors. It wasn't supposed to be rare. It wasn't supposed to be special. Yet one man's pocket change turned into a treasure worth over $1 million. A mistake so small, most eyes would never notice, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The year was 1977. America was in transition, Elvis Presley had just passed away, Star Wars was taking over theaters, and gas was only 65 cents a gallon. The Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck, as ordinary as ever, and yet, hidden among them, a handful carried secrets that would only be uncovered decades later. A misaligned die here. A double strike there. A faint, almost ghostly doubling on Lincoln's date and lettering, some with striking errors so unique, they transformed a 1-cent coin into $1 million masterpiece. Collectors were shocked when the first of these surfaced. A simple penny, but with the D mint mark and an unmistakable doubling that proved it was no ordinary strike. At auction, jaws dropped, hands shot into the air, the hammer fell. And a coin once worth 1 cent was now worth over $1 million. The answer lies in the flaws of the minting process. In 1977, the Denver Mint was operating at full speed, striking coins to meet America's growing demand, but speed often breeds mistakes, and those mistakes are where fortune hides. One coin had a double die reverse. The words, 1 cent, looked shadowed, doubled, like a secret whisper carved in copper. Another showed a die break, a jagged crack that split Lincoln's portrait in a way no machine could repeat. And a few bore off-center strikes so dramatic, Lincoln's face seemed to be sliding off the coin itself. The rarer the error, the higher the price, and in pristine condition, a 1977 D-era penny could fetch up to $1.3 million, but what's even more shocking, most people still don't know, some of these coins may still be sitting in drawers, tucked in dusty albums, or lost in old coffee cans. One man even found his while cleaning out his father's garage, a forgotten jar of change, hidden for decades. Inside it, a single penny that changed his life forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. 1977. Focus on the sevens, some carry a shadowy doubling, a clue that the coin was struck with a misaligned die. Examine the Denver D mint mark, sometimes it appears slightly tilted, repunched, or misplaced. On others, the reverse shows doubling on e pluribus unum or United States of America. These are the keys that separate a 1-cent coin from a $1 million miracle. Collectors whisper about these coins at shows, they trade stories of finds that turn skeptics into believers, and every year, another one surfaces, shocking the market all over again. But here's the most chilling part: how many of these coins are still out there? How many have slipped through countless hands, unnoticed, waiting for the one person who actually looks closely enough? Imagine it. You're at the grocery store, you get 3 pennies in change, you glance at one and toss it aside, but what if that penny was worth more than your house? This is why collectors check every coin, every pocket, every jar, because lightning can strike in copper, and for the 1977 D penny, it already has. But the story doesn't end there. One particular penny, graded in flawless condition, left experts speechless. Under magnification, its doubling was so clear, so dramatic, that some believed it could be the finest known. Example.at auction, the room held its breath, the bidding began at a modest sum, and climbed higher, and higher, until it shattered expectations. The final price? Over $1 million. The crowd erupted, the coin world was shaken, and another legend was born. But here's what you need to know. If you want to find one of these rare treasures, you must train your eye. Don't just look at the coin, study it, look at the date, look at the mint mark, check for doubling, cracks, off-center strikes, or anything unusual, because the mistakes are the money. Many beginners miss them. They glance too quickly, assuming all pennies are the same, but seasoned collectors know. It only takes 1.1 coin, 0.1 error, 0.1 miracle hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a 1977 penny with that little d, don't ignore it, examine it. It could be ordinary, or it could be the coin that changes everything. Millions of these coins were minted, thousands have vanished into circulation, hundreds may still be hiding, but only a few, just a chosen few, hold the power to make someone a millionaire, and maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. This coin was almost ignored, almost forgotten, and yet, when one collector realized what he was holding, it changed his life forever. A simple 1982 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, sold for nearly $1 million, and the reason why will leave you stunned. At first glance, the 1982 penny looks like any other coin in your pocket. Copper color, Lincoln's portrait, "In God We Trust." Ordinary. Forgettable. A coin you'd toss in a jar without a second thought. But what lies beneath the surface of this coin is a mistake so rare, so unexpected, that only a handful of people in the entire world have ever held one. The story begins in 1982, a year of change for American coinage. The U.S. Mint was under pressure. Rising copper prices meant that pennies were costing more to make than they were worth. For decades, pennies had been made almost entirely of copper. But in 1982, everything shifted. That was the year the mint switched from copper pennies to pennies made mostly of zinc, coated with just a thin layer of copper. A tiny change, but one that created chaos. For a brief moment, both copper pennies and zinc pennies were being struck in the same year. Millions of each were released. But here's the shocking twist: some coins from that transition year were struck with unexpected mistakes, and the 1982 no mint mark penny became a legend. Most pennies from 1982 were clearly labeled with either a D for Denver or no mint mark at all, indicating they were struck in Philadelphia. But because of the transition from copper to zinc, something strange happened. A very small number of no mint mark pennies were struck with the wrong metal, or the wrong die, creating a coin that looks almost normal, but is anything but. Collectors who stumble upon one of these rare survivors have seen values skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, over $1 million. The answer hides in the tiniest details. The weight of the coin. The sound it makes when it drops. Even the thickness of the letters in the date. These subtle differences separate a penny worth 1 cent from one worth over $1 million. Imagine holding that penny in your palm, knowing it's one of only a handful in existence. That's exactly what happened to one lucky collector. He found his 1982 no mint mark penny in loose change, never realizing, at first, that it wasn't ordinary. It sat in his collection for years before experts confirmed the truth. When it finally sold, the coin world was shaken. A coin so common in appearance, yet so impossibly rare in reality, had sold for more than most people make in a lifetime. In drawers. In old piggy banks. In dusty coin jars forgotten in attics and basements. Because the U.S. Mint released so many pennies in 1982, millions remain in circulation today. Dealers are scrambling, collectors are hunting, and ordinary people are checking every coin they touch. But here's the question you need to ask yourself: would you recognize it if it passed through your hands? Because most people wouldn't. This coin doesn't scream treasure. It doesn't shine like gold or sparkle with diamonds. It whispers its value quietly, hiding behind the mask of an everyday penny. But those who know what to look for can unlock its secret. What makes this penny worth up to $1.4 million is its composition. Some 1982 no mint mark pennies were struck in copper, weighing 3.11 grams. Others were struck in zinc, weighing just 2.5 grams. The rarest of all, the ones that command staggering prices, are those that were struck with the wrong metal for the die, or that exist in very limited quantities with no mint mark at all. To identify one, you don't need expensive equipment. Just a scale. A genuine copper penny from 1982 will weigh 3.11 grams. A zinc penny will weigh 2.5 grams. If you find a 1982 no mint mark penny that weighs the wrong amount, you could be staring at $1 million coin. But even more shocking, some of these rare 1982 pennies feature slight variations in the date. Wide date, narrow date. Subtle differences that only trained eyes catch. And it's these details that have sent collectors into a frenzy. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he noticed those details. And you could too, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first 1982 no mint mark penny sold for a staggering price, rumors began to spread. Were there more? Were they still out there? Dealers began buying up 1982 pennies in bulk, searching desperately for another. Stories circulated of people finding rare varieties tucked away in jars. And every discovery fueled the fire. Today, the hunt continues. Collectors are still digging, still weighing, still searching for that elusive coin. Because the truth is, not all of them have been found. Somewhere, in the sea of ordinary pennies, one more life-changing treasure could be waiting. Think about that the next time you reach into your pocket. That clinking sound of pennies could be the sound of a fortune. Grab any 1982 penny with no mint mark. Weigh it. If it comes in at 3.11 grams, you've got copper. If it's 2.5 grams, you've got zinc. But if you find one with an anomaly, the wrong weight, the wrong metal, the wrong die, you could be holding a penny worth up to $1.40 million. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them. And even today, coin experts believe the story isn't over. Because these pennies are still out there. Hidden in plain sight. Waiting to be discovered. This isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about owning a piece of America's story, a coin that slipped through the cracks during a moment of change, survived decades unnoticed, and now stands as one of the rarest treasures in circulation. And maybe, just maybe, one is sitting in your home right now. So check your change. Weigh your pennies. Look closely. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and $1 million miracle could be just one glance away. The exact penny that could change your life forever might already be in your pocket. This coin almost slipped through the cracks of history. It almost vanished into the shadows of ordinary pocket change. But one 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny shocked collectors when it surfaced at auction, selling for a staggering fortune, some say up to $1.5 million. Imagine that. A penny, the coin you barely glance at, suddenly transforming into a life-changing miracle. And here's the chilling part: you might have one right now, sitting in a jar, hidden in your change, waiting to be discovered. But what makes this coin so rare, so powerful, so dangerous to ignore? The truth begins with a mistake. A mistake so small, the U.S. Mint never saw it coming. Back in 1988, the Lincoln Memorial penny was struck in the millions. To most, it was just another copper-plated zinc coin. Worth a single cent but hidden among the ordinary, lurked a secret few ever noticed. Some of these pennies were struck with the wrong design. That's right, the wrong design. A die mix-up at the mint created what's now called the 1988 transitional error. Instead of using the standard reverse design for that year, a small number of coins were struck with an earlier style. To the untrained eye, they look ordinary, but to collectors, they're pure gold. But here's the twist: this error isn't obvious. It hides in plain sight, and unless you know exactly what detail to look for, you'd spend it without a second thought. Collectors were stunned when the first of these coins surfaced. Whispers spread through the numismatic world. Could a simple penny really carry a mistake so rare it turned into a $1 million marvel? And then, the proof arrived. One coin, authenticated, verified, and sold, not for a few hundred, not for a few thousand, but for life-changing money. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because more began to appear. Collectors tore through their change. Dealers scoured boxes of pennies. Imagine that electric moment. You're holding a penny in your hand, turning it under the light. At first, nothing. Just another coin, but then, your eye catches a tiny difference. A detail so subtle it almost looks like an illusion, and suddenly, your heart stops. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with the wrong reverse design reveals itself in the shape of the letters and features around the Lincoln Memorial. The style belongs to an earlier year. A leftover die that never should have been used. It's a ghost of the past, struck into a coin meant for the future. Collectors were shocked, dealers were rushing to get their hands on these rare survivors, and stories began to surface of average people, not seasoned experts, not wealthy investors, but everyday Americans, pulling a fortune from their spare change. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector, who thought his coin might be worth a few dollars, nearly fainted when the auctioneer's hammer fell at a six-figure price. The buzz was undeniable. This wasn't just a coin, it was a phenomenon. But the real question is, how can you find one? Because right now, somewhere out there, another 1988 penny is waiting to be discovered, and the next person to notice it could change their life forever. You're at the grocery store, and your change slides into your hand, pennies you don't even want to carry, but one of them could secretly be worth more than your car, more than your house, maybe even more than your retirement fund. Here's how to tell. Focus on the reverse side, the back of the coin with the Lincoln Memorial. On the rare error coin, the design isn't quite right. Look closely at the letters, America. The style of the G in FG, the designer's initials, holds the clue. On the transitional error, the initials belong to a reverse design from 1989, mistakenly used a year too early. It's a microscopic difference, but it's the key to a $1 million prize. Collectors know this detail changes everything. Miss it, and you'll spend the coin for a pack of gum. Spot it, and you've uncovered a miracle. But the suspense doesn't end there, because even within these coins, condition matters. A scratched, worn down example might still fetch hundreds, maybe thousands, but a pristine, uncirculated one, that's where the numbers climb into the unimaginable. That's where $1 million legends are born. Now think about this: how many jars of pennies are sitting untouched, and how many banks still roll up these coins, never knowing what treasure they're passing along, and how many people have already spent one of these miracle pennies, never realizing the fortune they gave away. It could happen to anyone, and it has. Dealers still tell the story of a collector who walked into a coin shop with a handful of pennies, not expecting much, but when the dealer saw it, the 1988 no-mint mark transitional error, he went silent. His hands trembled, because he knew this was the kind of discovery that comes once in a lifetime. An unbelievable fortune that changed the collector's life forever. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: nobody knows exactly how many of these coins exist. It could be hundreds. It could be dozens. Or it could be just a handful left in circulation, waiting to be pulled from obscurity. That's why the hunt continues. That's why people across the country are checking every penny, because the dream is alive, and it's real, and tonight, that dream could be yours. So when you pick up your change, don't ignore it. Don't let that ordinary-looking penny slip away. Flip it over. Study the details. Look for the impossible, because this exact penny, the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with the hidden transitional error, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a dusty jar of change, yet it sold for nearly $1.5 million, and the shocking part? It wasn't some ancient relic. It was a simple penny, struck in 1987. Yes, 1987, a year most of us remember as modern history, not ancient treasure, but buried inside that year's production of billions of pennies. A tiny handful carried a secret mistake that would turn ordinary pocket change into a life-changing fortune. At first glance, it looks just like every other brown, copper-plated cent. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial standing proudly on the back. Nothing unusual. Nothing that screams fortune. And that's exactly what makes this story so unbelievable, because this particular penny had no mint mark. That small letter you normally see under the date, D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or sometimes no mark at all, became the key to an extraordinary twist in U.S. coin history. In 1987, most pennies were struck at the Denver and Philadelphia mints. Coins from Philadelphia traditionally carried no mint mark, but certain production errors in that year created inconsistencies that collectors today go absolutely wild for. It was the kind of detail so small, so overlooked, that millions of people spent these pennies without a second thought, but one man didn't. He noticed the date. He noticed the missing mark. He noticed the surface shimmer just a little differently under the light. And instead of dropping it back into circulation, he held onto it. Years later, that same penny would cross the auction block, and shock the coin world by selling for more than $1 million. But how could something so common, so ordinary, be worth such an unthinkable amount? The answer lies in rarity, in mistakes, and in the relentless passion of collectors, because 1987 wasn't just another year. It was a year when minting technology was being pushed, when die variations crept in, when small imperfections went unnoticed by the mint but not by sharp-eyed collectors. Some pennies bore doubling on the date or the lettering. Others revealed subtle die cracks or misalignments. And the no mint mark coins from Philadelphia added to the mystery, because most people didn't even realize they had something special until decades later. One specific variety from 1987 became the holy grail. It had no mint mark, yet its strike was razor-sharp, its surfaces flawless, and its luster almost glowing. And in the world of coins, that combination, error, rarity, and condition, creates magic. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on even the faintest example. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and it didn't stop there. Word spread. Stories surfaced of others finding strange 1987 pennies in their jars, in their wallets, in rolls of coins from the bank. Most of them were ordinary, but a chosen few carried that spark of rarity, and with every discovery, the excitement grew. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a prestigious auction, under the glare of bright lights and the watchful eyes of seasoned bidders, one of these pennies was carefully placed on the block. It was graded in near-perfect condition, a jewel in the sea of billions. The bidding began modestly. A few thousand, then tens of thousands. But as collectors realized what was at stake, the numbers skyrocketed. 50,000. 100,000. 500,000. And then, silence. Two bidders remained, locked in a battle of pride, passion, and desire. The final hammer fell at over $1.6 million. A penny. A coin worth 1 cent now worth more than a mansion. And here's the part that should make your heart race. Most people never notice these coins. They pass them on, they spend them, they let them slip through their fingers. But the truth is, this exact penny could still be sitting in your home right now. Start with the date, 1987. Next, look just beneath it. No mint mark. That's your first clue, but don't stop there. Examine the coin under good light. Look for sharp details, strong luster, and absolutely minimal wear. Coins in near-perfect condition are worth dramatically more. Check for any doubling in the letters, cracks in the design, or unusual surfaces. These tiny details separate the ordinary from the extraordinary, but beware. Many coins will look close, but only a handful are truly rare enough to reach the $1 million mark. That's why collectors use magnifiers, reference guides, and professional grading services to verify authenticity. Finding one of these coins isn't just about the money. It's about the story. The dream. The possibility that something so small, so ordinary, can carry such unimaginable value. It's about knowing that hidden treasures still exist, not in faraway lands, but right here, in our own pockets. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it into a jar. Don't assume it's worthless, because the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already changed lives. It has already shocked the coin world. It has already proven that miracles can hide in plain sight, and maybe, just maybe, the next miracle is waiting for you. So check your change. Search your drawers. Look closely at every penny, because this exact coin could be sitting in your hand right now, and it could be worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot, trampled underfoot, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world when it sold for nearly $1 million. We're talking about the year 2000. A new millennium. A new chapter in history. And yet, hidden in the pockets of everyday Americans, one little coin was being minted that would later become the stuff of legend. The 2000 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it's just a cent worth almost nothing. But under the right conditions, this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc could be worth up to $1.7 million. The answer is buried in the shadows of the Denver Mint, where a single slip, a hidden variation, and a moment of history collided to create one of the rarest modern treasures ever known. But what happened next stunned collectors across the nation. You see, most people think all pennies look the same. But the 2000 mint mark hides its value in the smallest, most overlooked details. The color of the strike. The alignment of Lincoln's profile. The shape of the D stamped on the coin. And for a few rare examples, shocking doubling errors that make the numbers look alive, shifting and trembling like a ghost trapped in metal. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. A penny they had spent their whole lives ignoring suddenly became a key to fortune. One man reportedly pulled his from pocket change and thought it looked strange. He almost spent it at a gas station. Instead, he took a second look, and that single moment of hesitation turned into an auction hammer slamming down for nearly $1.5 million. But here's the catch. Not every 2000 penny is valuable. In fact, out of the billions minted, only a handful contain the specific flaws that drive dealers into a frenzy. Which means the odds are slim. And yet, someone has to find them. Someone has to be the one who stumbles onto history, and here's the part most collectors don't know. Some of these coins were struck with what's called a wide AM reverse, a spacing error between the letters A and M in the word America. Normally, the letters touch. But on these rare coins, they're spread apart, a microscopic clue that transforms a worthless cent into $1 million miracle. Dealers have described holding one for the first time as electric. Like touching lightning frozen into copper. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and suddenly, the weight of destiny feels heavier than the coin itself. But the real drama came in 2010, when one of these rare 2000 pennies crossed the auction block. Experts expected a modest rise in price. Instead, the bidding war spiraled out of control. Dealers fought tooth and nail. Bidders shouted over one another. And when the dust settled, a single penny, 1 cent, had just fetched close to $1.7 million. 1 penny turning into a mansion. 1 penny paying off every debt you've ever had. 1 penny rewriting the future of a family forever. And yet, even today, most people still spend them without looking. They toss them in jars. They drop them in parking meters. Some even throw them away. Not realizing that they might have just thrown away a fortune. But what makes this story even more shocking is the number of mistakes that exist beyond just the wide AM. Some 2000 pennies feature doubled dies on the obverse, Lincoln's portrait and the date showing faint doubling, like a ghostly shadow. Others reveal die cracks or cuds, raised scars across the coin's surface that mark it as a one-of-a-kind error. Each error tells its own story. A story of pressure, heat, and metal clashing with machinery that wasn't quite perfect. A moment of weakness at the Denver Mint that created strength for collectors today. Imagine being the one to find it. You're rolling pennies from a drawer. You spot one that looks off. Your pulse quickens. You grab a magnifying glass. And then, your heart nearly stops when you see it, the wide AM, the doubling, the scar across Lincoln's shoulder. You hold in your hand not a cent, but a ticket to wealth beyond imagination. But here's the truth, most people will never notice. They'll look at the date, see 2000D, and shrug. They'll miss the detail, the spacing, the tiny imperfection that separates ordinary from extraordinary. And that's why these coins are worth so much. Because while billions exist, only a whisper of them are chosen. Collectors call them miracles. Dealers call them jackpots. But to the lucky few who've sold them at auction, they're life-changing. Experts believe there are still undiscovered examples out there. Sitting quietly in coffee cans. Resting in old dressers. Waiting in dusty piggy banks across America. Maybe even hiding in your pocket right now. First, check the reverse side. Focus on the word America. If the A and the M are clearly separated, not touching, not merged, but spaced apart, you may be holding a wide AM variety. Next, study the front of the coin carefully. Look for doubling on Lincoln's date, his eye, or his bow tie. Use a magnifying glass if needed. Genuine double dies are sharp, clear, and unmistakable once you've seen them. Also, examine the mint mark. The D should look crisp, but some errors show it repunched or oddly shaped. Those details could be worth thousands alone, and never ignore cracks, chips, or raised lines running across the surface. Each one could make your coin rarer, more desirable, and potentially worth a fortune. So before you drop that penny into a coin jar, take one more look. Because the 2000D Lincoln penny has already changed lives. And the next $1 million discovery could belong to you.